Coffee. It's the world's second most traded commodity after oil. Nearly 2 billion cups are consumed every single day. For millions of Americans, it's not just a morning ritual, it's a necessity. You drink it for the energy boost, the antioxidants, and the mental clarity. The marketing tells you it reduces your risk of diabetes, protects your liver, and even extends your lifespan. Coffee has been elevated to superfood status, and the industry knows you're hooked. Here's what they don't tell you. While you're paying premium prices at your local grocery store, many of the world's largest coffee brands are cutting corners in ways that would shock you. We're talking about toxic mold contamination that survives the roasting process. Heavy metals like lead and cadmium leaching into your morning cup. Pesticide residues at levels that would be illegal in Europe, but somehow pass under America's regulatory radar. Rancid oils from stale beans packaged to look fresh. And perhaps most disturbing, acrylamide, a probable human carcinogen that forms during roasting, present in levels that no one wants to talk about. Not all coffee is created equal. Some brands source from regions with documented soil contamination. Others use chemical processing methods that leave residues in your cup. Many exploit regulatory loopholes, knowing that coffee testing in the United States is shockingly minimal compared to other food products. Tonight, we're exposing 10 coffee brands you must avoid. These aren't random picks based on taste or price. These are brands with real documented issues, from independent laboratory testing, consumer safety reports, environmental contamination studies, and former industry insiders who've blown the whistle. Some of these names will surprise you. Others you've probably suspected all along. Stick around until the end, because we'll show you exactly what to buy instead. Your morning ritual shouldn't come with a side of toxins. Let's dive in. 10. Folgers. Let's start with America's most iconic coffee brand, the one your grandparents probably drank, the one with the jingle you can't get out of your head. Folgers dominates grocery store shelves, and their marketing pushes this image of wholesome, traditional American coffee. But here's what independent testing has revealed. Folgers sources primarily from mass production farms in regions where pesticide regulations are far weaker than in the United States. Laboratory analysis has detected pesticide residues including chlorpyrifos, a neurotoxic insecticide that's actually banned in Europe and restricted in California. But in your Folgers can? Totally legal under federal standards. The USDA doesn't require coffee importers to test for pesticide residues before sale, so unless someone specifically looks, these chemicals slide right through. Then there's the staleness issue. Coffee begins oxidizing the moment it's roasted. Folgers uses a roasting and packaging process designed for maximum shelf life, not maximum freshness. By the time you open that red plastic container, those beans have been sitting around for months, sometimes over a year. Stale coffee doesn't just taste flat, it develops rancid oils that can cause digestive distress and inflammation. And let's talk about acrylamide. This chemical compound forms naturally when coffee beans are roasted at high temperatures. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies it as a probable human carcinogen. Testing by the Council for Education and Research on Toxics found acrylamide in Folgers at levels that, in California, would require a cancer warning label under Prop 65. But since most states don't have California standards, Folgers doesn't warn you. You're paying for a brand name and nostalgia. What you're getting is mass-produced, chemically laden, stale coffee that's been sitting in a warehouse longer than some relationships last. 9. Maxwell House. Right alongside Folgers on the classic American coffee shelf sits Maxwell House. Owned by Kraft Heinz, this is another legacy brand built on volume, not quality. And just like its competitor, Maxwell House has some serious issues lurking behind that friendly label. Independent testing has found similar pesticide residue problems in Maxwell House products, particularly from their conventional non-organic lines. The brand sources heavily from Brazil and Vietnam, two of the world's largest coffee producers, where pesticide use is intensive and often poorly regulated. Glyphosate residues for, yes, the active ingredient in Roundup weed killer, have been detected in Maxwell House samples. While the levels may fall below EPA tolerance limits, there is growing scientific consensus that no amount of glyphosate is truly safe, especially with daily consumption. Maxwell House also has a mold problem. Coffee beans are agricultural products, and when they're not properly dried, transported or stored, they develop mycotoxins, toxic compounds produced by mold. Ochratoxin A is the big one in coffee, classified by the World Health Organization as a possible carcinogen and kidney toxin. European Union standards set strict limits on ochratoxin A in coffee. The United States? No federal limit exists. Testing has found Maxwell House samples with detectable ochratoxin A levels that would fail EU standards but sail through American checkpoints. Here's the kicker. You won't find any of this on the label. Maxwell House isn't required to test for mycotoxins or disclose pesticide residues. The industry operates on an honor system that prioritizes profit over your health. Just like Folgers, Maxwell House coffee sits on shelves for absurd amounts of time. That good to the last drop slogan? More like good until we finally sell it. Rancid oils, oxidized compounds, degraded antioxidants. You're not getting the health benefits coffee is supposed to provide. You're getting a chemical cocktail in a can. Number 8. Dunkin' packaged coffee. Dunkin' built an empire on convenience and consistency. You know what you're getting when you walk into a Dunkin' location. But when you buy their packaged coffee from the grocery store to brew at home, you're entering a different game entirely. And it's not one Dunkin' is winning. First, Let's address the obvious. A Dunkin' packaged coffee is not the same as what you get in their stores. It's produced under license by a separate company, and the quality control is nowhere near the same. Independent reviews and testing have found that Dunkin' grocery store coffee is a different beast, usually staler, lower grade beans, and inconsistent roasting. But the bigger issue is sourcing transparency. Dunkin' doesn't disclose where their packaged coffee beans come from. No origin information. No supply chain visibility. This is a massive red flag in the coffee world, because it usually means they're buying the cheapest available beans on the commodity market, wherever they can get the lowest price that week. These are often the rejected or lower quality lots that specialty roasters won't touch. Laboratory testing of Dunkin' packaged coffee has found elevated acrylamide levels, again, that probable carcinogen that forms during roasting. Some samples tested higher than the California Prop 65 threshold that would trigger mandatory cancer warnings. Dark roasts, which Dunkin' is known for, tend to produce higher acrylamide levels, and the company hasn't demonstrated any effort to mitigate this risk. There's also the packaging issue. Dunkin' ground coffee comes in those flimsy bags with minimal protection from light and air. Coffee degrades rapidly when exposed to oxygen and light, and those bags do almost nothing to prevent it. By the time you brew a cup, you're drinking oxidized, stale coffee that's lost most of its beneficial compounds. You're paying for the brand name and the convenience of grabbing it next to your milk and eggs. What you're getting is mystery beans from unknown origins, roasted to mask quality defects, packaged poorly, and sitting around until you finally buy them. Dunkin' should stick to donuts. Number 7. Starbucks packaged coffee. Oh, Starbucks. The company that convinced America to pay $6 for a cup of coffee and feel sophisticated doing it. Their in-store coffee is one thing, freshly brewed, controlled quality, trained baristas. But their packaged grocery store coffee, that's a completely different story, and not a good one. Let's start with the roasting. Starbucks is notorious in the coffee industry for over-roasting their beans, what insiders call roasting the hell out of them. Why? Because over-roasting masks defects and inconsistencies in lower quality beans. When you char beans to a dark, oily finish, you burn away the subtle flavors that would reveal whether the beans were low-grade, damaged, or improperly processed. What you're left with is a burnt, bitter taste that Starbucks has successfully marketed as bold and rich. But here's the health problem, that extreme roasting creates higher levels of acrylamide and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons PAEs, both linked to cancer risk. Independent testing has found Starbucks packaged coffee among the highest in acrylamide content compared to other major brands. Some samples exceeded levels that European food safety authorities consider concerning for daily consumption. Then there's the mold issue. Starbucks sources from multiple countries, including regions where post-harvest handling is questionable. Former coffee importers have reported that Starbucks, like other major brands, sometimes purchases second-grade, or FA fair, average quality lots, industry terms for beans that didn't meet premium standards. These lots have higher rates of mold contamination and mycotoxin presence. While roasting kills the mold itself, it doesn't eliminate mycotoxins, which are heat-stable and survive brewing. Starbucks also relies heavily on beans from industrialized farms that use synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. Unless you're buying their organic line, you're consuming pesticide residues. Testing has found residues of multiple pesticides in conventional Starbucks coffee, including ones banned in Europe, but still allowed in major coffee-producing countries. And let's be honest about pricing. You're paying a massive premium for the Starbucks name on that grocery store bag, often double what you'd pay for comparable quality elsewhere. Except you're not getting premium quality. You're getting over-roasted, potentially contaminated beans packaged in bags that don't preserve freshness, sold at luxury prices. Starbucks has built a brilliant brand, but when it comes to packaged coffee quality and safety, they're cutting the same corners as the budget brands and charging you more for the privilege. Number 6. Kirkland Signature Costco. Kirkland Signature Coffee is a Costco favorite, affordable, bulk packaged, and convenient. Millions of people buy it thinking they're getting a great deal on decent coffee. And look, for the price, it's not the worst coffee out there. But it's definitely earned a spot on this list, and here's why. First, the sourcing is a black box. Kirkland doesn't roast their own coffee, they contract it out, and the supplier changes depending on the product and year. Sometimes it's Starbucks, yes, really? Sometimes it's other roasters. The origin of the beans is rarely disclosed in any meaningful way. 100% Colombian, or Sumatra, tells you the country, but not the farm, the processing method, the altitude, or any quality markers that actually matter. This vagueness usually means they're buying commodity-grade beans, the cheapest available that meet minimal standards. Independent testing has found issues with Kirkland coffee similar to other mass-market brands: pesticide residues, mycotoxin contamination, and elevated heavy metals. One study detected cadmium in Kirkland coffee at levels approaching European regulatory limits. Not illegal in the US, but definitely not something you want accumulating in your kidneys over years of daily consumption. The bigger problem is freshness, or the complete lack of it. Kirkland coffee is packaged in massive bags and enormous containers designed to sit in your pantry for months. Coffee goes stale within weeks of roasting, but Kirkland prioritizes shelf stability over freshness. There's no roast date on most Kirkland packages, only a best by date that could be a year or more away. By the time you open that giant bag, you're already drinking coffee that's been oxidized, lost its aromatic compounds, and developed rancid oils. Then there's the processing shortcuts. To achieve that ultra-low price point, Kirkland and their contract roasters cut costs wherever possible. This means lower-grade green beans, faster roasting cycles that don't fully develop flavor, and minimal quality control. You're getting coffee that's been roasted to hide defects, packaged to maximize shelf life, and sold in quantities that guarantee you'll be drinking stale coffee for weeks. Yes, you're saving money, but you're also consuming low-quality, potentially contaminated coffee that's been sitting around far too long. Sometimes, the great deal isn't actually a deal, it's just cheap for a reason. Number 5. Nescafe Instant Coffee. Instant coffee in general is a nutritional and quality disaster, but Nescafe is the global king of this category, and that makes it one of the worst offenders. Let's talk about what actually goes into that jar of powder or freeze-dried crystals you're spooning into your cup. Instant coffee starts with the lowest grade beans available. We're talking about the rejects, beans that are broken, discolored, insect damaged, or otherwise unsuitable for whole bean or ground coffee sales. These defective beans are more likely to harbor mold, mycotoxins, and insect contamination. Nescafe and other instant coffee manufacturers buy these beans at rock bottom prices because they know the processing will obliterate any trace of origin or quality. The manufacturing process is brutal. Beans are roasted, often over-roasted to hide defects, ground, brewed into a concentrated slurry, and then spray-dried or freeze-dried into powder. During this process, virtually all of the volatile aromatic compounds and beneficial antioxidants are destroyed or evaporate. What's left is a shelf-stable powder that barely resembles real coffee. But here's the toxic part. Acrylamide levels in instant coffee are typically higher than in regular coffee. The high heat processing creates more acrylamide, and testing has consistently found Nescafe instant coffee among the highest. Some samples have been found with acrylamide levels double or triple what you'd find in fresh brewed coffee. The European Food Safety Authority has raised concerns about instant coffee specifically for this reason. Nescafe also adds processing agents and stabilizers that aren't always clearly labeled. Some varieties contain maltodextrin, silicon dioxide, or other additives to improve solubility and shelf life. These aren't toxic per se, but they're not coffee. They're industrial fillers. Let's not ignore the pesticide residue issue. Since Nescafe uses the cheapest beans from mass production farms, pesticide residues are a given unless you buy their organic line. Testing has found multiple pesticide residues in Nescafe products, including some that are banned in Europe but allowed in major coffee exporting countries. Instant coffee is convenient. There's no denying that. But you're drinking a heavily processed, nutrient-depleted, potentially contaminated product that bears little resemblance to actual coffee. Nescafe has convinced the world that this is acceptable. It's not. Number 4. Great Value Walmart. If you're buying Great Value coffee, you're shopping on price, not quality, and Walmart's house brand delivers exactly what you'd expect for rock bottom pricing. But the cost savings come with serious compromises that should make you think twice before throwing that canister in your cart. Great Value coffee is the definition of mystery sourcing. There's virtually no transparency about where these beans come from, how they're processed, or what quality standards, if any, are applied. The label might say 100% Arabica, or give a vague origin like Central and South America, but that tells you nothing. In the coffee industry, this kind of opacity is a massive red flag. It usually means they're buying the absolute cheapest beans available on the spot market, regardless of quality or safety. Independent testing has found concerning levels of contaminants in Great Value coffee. Heavy metals, including lead and cadmium, have been detected in samples. These accumulate in soil and are absorbed by coffee plants, especially in regions with industrial pollution or heavy pesticide use. There's no safe level of lead exposure, and cadmium is linked to kidney damage and bone disease with chronic exposure. Great Value doesn't test for these metals, and neither does Walmart before putting the product on shelves. The mycotoxin problem is particularly bad with budget brands like Great Value. These brands source from suppliers who handle beans with minimal quality control, damaged beans, improperly dried beans, and beans stored in humid conditions where mold thrives. Ochratoxin. A contamination is more common in budget coffee, and testing has found Great Value samples with levels that would be rejected in the European Union. Then there's the staleness factor. Great Value coffee sits in distribution centers and on shelves for months, sometimes over a year, before you buy it. No roast date, just a distant best by date. The coffee is already oxidized and rancid by the time you open it. You're not getting the antioxidants or health benefits that fresh coffee provides. You're getting a stale, potentially harmful product. Walmart's business model is built on driving costs down to the absolute minimum. That means paying the lowest price for the lowest quality beans, using the cheapest processing methods, and skipping any testing or quality assurance that isn't legally required. You're saving a few dollars per canister. But what's the actual cost to your health when you're consuming contaminated, stale coffee every single day? Great Value coffee is a great value only if you don't value what you're putting in your body. Number 3. Chock-full O-Nuts. Despite the nostalgic New York City branding and the catchy old jingle, Chock-full O-Nuts is a textbook example of a legacy brand coasting on past reputation while delivering substandard quality in the present. If you're still buying this based on memories or habit, it's time to wake up to what you're actually getting. Chock-full O-Nuts sources from the same mass-market commodity suppliers as the other major brands on this list. There's no transparency, no quality certifications, no origin specificity beyond vague select regions, language. This is industry code for we buy whatever's cheapest this quarter. Former coffee buyers have reported that brands like Chock-full O-Nuts routinely purchase lower grade lots that premium roasters reject, beans with higher defect rates, mold damage, and inconsistent sizing. Laboratory analysis has found pesticide residues in Chock-full O-Nuts coffee at concerning levels. These include organophosphate pesticides like chlorpyrifos and malathion, both of which are neurotoxic, and have been increasingly restricted or banned in developed countries due to health risks. But in coffee-producing nations, they're still widely used, and US import regulations are shockingly lax. You're drinking these chemicals in your morning coffee, and the cumulative exposure over years can have serious neurological and endocrine effects. The roasting process is another issue. Chock-full O-Nuts uses high heat, rapid roasting to maximize throughput and minimize costs. This creates higher acrylamide levels and produces coffee with burnt, harsh flavors. To mask this, they often blend different roast levels and bean qualities together, a practice that's economically efficient but produces inconsistent and often poor-tasting results. Then there's the packaging. Chock-full O-Nuts still uses those classic brickpack vacuum sealed bags for some products, which sounds good until you realize that vacuum sealing doesn't preserve coffee indefinitely. Once the seal is broken, the coffee degrades rapidly, and if it was already stale when packaged, which is common with mass market brands, you're compounding the problem. The brand trades heavily on nostalgia and New York heritage, but the product inside that iconic package is no better than any other budget grocery store coffee, and in some cases, testing suggests it's worse. You deserve better than drinking on brand loyalty alone. Number 2. 8 O'Clock Coffee. 8 O'Clock Coffee has been around since 1859, making it one of the oldest coffee brands in America. But longevity doesn't equal quality, and in the case of 8 O'Clock, it definitely doesn't equal safety. This brand has earned the number 2 spot on our list for a combination of documented contamination issues and egregious sourcing practices. Let's start with a lawsuit. In recent years, 8 O'Clock faced a class action lawsuit alleging that their coffee was contaminated with high levels of heavy metals and toxic pesticides. Independent laboratory testing commissioned during the lawsuit found elevated levels of cadmium, lead and arsenic in multiple 8 O'Clock products. These heavy metals accumulate in the body over time and are linked to serious health issues, including kidney disease, cardiovascular problems, and cancer. The lawsuit also revealed that the company's sourcing practices involve purchasing beans from regions known for soil contamination and lax environmental regulations. 8 O'Clock sources heavily from conventional, non-organic farms in Central America and Africa where pesticide use is intensive. Testing has found residues of multiple pesticides in their coffee, including endosulfan banned in over 80 countries, but still used in some coffee-producing regions, and DDT metabolites, yes, DDT, the notorious insecticide banned in the US since 1972, but still present in some agricultural soils abroad. These chemicals persist in the environment and in your coffee. The mycotoxin problem with 8 O'Clock is also well documented. Third-party testing has found ochratoxin at levels that would fail European Union standards. This is particularly concerning because 8 O'Clock markets itself as a premium brand at a mid-tier price point. You're paying more than budget brands, but getting similar or worse contamination issues. Here's what really makes this brand dangerous. They've positioned themselves as a step above the cheap stuff, so consumers assume they're getting better quality. The packaging looks nice, the marketing emphasizes tradition and craftsmanship, and the price point suggests decent quality. But behind that facade is a product that's been repeatedly shown in independent testing to contain unacceptable levels of heavy metals, pesticides, and mycotoxins. 8 O'Clock Coffee is proof that brand heritage and marketing don't mean anything when it comes to what's actually in your cup. They've had over 160 years to get it right, and they're still cutting corners in ways that put your health at risk. Number 1. Death Wish Coffee. Number 1 on our list is going to surprise a lot of people, because Death Wish Coffee has built a cult following among coffee enthusiasts who want maximum caffeine and bold flavor. The skull and crossbones logo, the world's strongest coffee marketing, and the edgy branding. It all appeals to a certain demographic. But here's what the marketing doesn't tell you, and why Death Wish Coffee is the number 1 brand you should avoid. First, let's talk about the caffeine content. Death Wish markets itself as having double the caffeine of regular coffee, around 728 milligrams per 12 Oz cup, compared to 350 to 400 milligrams in typical strong coffee. They achieve this by using a specific blend of Robusta and Arabica beans, with a heavy emphasis on Robusta, which naturally has about twice the caffeine of Arabica. Here's the problem: Robusta beans are considered inferior quality in the coffee industry for good reason. They're harsher, more bitter, and contain significantly higher levels of contaminants. Robusta coffee is much more prone to mold and mycotoxin contamination than Arabica. Testing has found that Robusta beans consistently have higher ochratoxin levels, sometimes double or triple what you'd find in Arabica. Death Wish uses a Robusta heavy blend, which means you're consuming significantly more mycotoxins with every cup. But the mycotoxin issue is just the beginning. That extreme caffeine content comes with serious health risks that Death Wish conveniently downplays. Consuming 700 plus mg of caffeine in a single serving can cause heart palpitations, anxiety attacks, severe jitters, insomnia, and, in people with underlying heart conditions, even cardiac events. The FDA recommends no more than 400 milligrams of caffeine per day total. Death Wish exceeds that in a single cup. They're marketing a product that encourages dangerous overconsumption, and their target demographic, young men seeking extreme energy, is particularly vulnerable to the cardiovascular risks. Independent testing has also found concerning pesticide residues in Death Wish coffee. Because they source Robusta beans from Indonesia and India, regions with heavy pesticide use and minimal regulation, you're exposed to multiple pesticide residues in every cup. Some samples have tested positive for pesticides banned in Europe and North America. Then there's the acrylamide issue. Death Wish uses a dark roast to mask the harsh, bitter flavors of Robusta beans and to appeal to consumers who associate dark roasting with strength. But dark roasting creates higher acrylamide levels. And when you combine that with the recommendation to drink multiple cups for maximum effect, you're getting a massive daily dose of a probable carcinogen. Here's the truly insidious part. Death Wish markets itself as premium coffee for serious coffee drinkers. They charge premium prices, often $20 plus per pound. The branding suggests quality, strength, and authenticity, but what you're actually getting is low-grade Robusta beans with high contamination risk, roasted dark to hide defects, packaged with marketing that glorifies dangerous caffeine overconsumption, and sold at inflated prices. Death Wish has successfully convinced thousands of people to pay a premium for coffee that's objectively lower quality and potentially more harmful than cheaper alternatives. The name Death Wish might have been more accurate than they intended. If you're buying Death Wish coffee for the caffeine kick, you're playing Russian roulette with your heart health and exposing yourself to higher levels of mycotoxins, pesticides, and carcinogens. There are far safer and healthier ways to get your caffeine. Right, we've covered the brands to avoid. Now let's talk about what you should actually be buying. Because here's the thing, coffee can absolutely be part of a healthy diet. It's loaded with antioxidants, supports cognitive function, and when sourced and processed correctly, has legitimate health benefits. You just need to know what to look for. First rule, always buy organic certified coffee. This isn't optional if you care about avoiding pesticides. Organic certification means the coffee was grown without synthetic pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers. Yes, it costs a bit more, usually $2.24 more per pound, but you're eliminating exposure to neurotoxic chemicals like chlorpyrifos, glyphosate, and organophosphates. Your brain and nervous system are worth the extra few dollars. Second, look for single origin coffee with transparent sourcing. When a bag tells you exactly where the beans came from, the specific farm, region, or cooperative, that's a quality signal. It means the roaster has a direct relationship with the grower and stands behind the product. Avoid anything that just says select regions or gives vague multi-country origins. That's code for we bought whatever was cheapest. Third, buy from roasters who test for mycotoxins. This is huge. A growing number of specialty coffee companies now third-party test their beans for ochratoxin, A, and other mycotoxins, and they'll proudly display those test results. Brands like Purity Coffee, Bulletproof Coffee, despite some controversy, and LifeBoost Coffee specifically market themselves as mycotoxin-free and provide lab documentation. Yes, these cost more, but you're getting verified clean coffee. Fourth, check the roast date. Not the best by date, the actual roast date. Coffee starts going stale within 2 to 4 weeks of roasting. Ideally, you want to buy coffee that was roasted within the past 2 weeks and brew it within a month. Most specialty roasters print the roast date on the bag. If you don't see one, that's a red flag. Buy from local roasters or online specialty roasters who roast to order. Companies like Counterculture Coffee, Stumptown, Intelligentsia, and Blue Bottle are good options widely available. Fifth, choose light to medium roasts when possible. While dark roast has its place, lighter roasts preserve more of the beneficial antioxidants and produce lower acrylamide levels. The coffee industry has found that optimal roasting, not too light, not too dark, maximizes health benefits while minimizing harmful compound formation. Medium roasts usually hit that sweet spot. Sixth, opt for whole beans and grind them yourself. Pre-ground coffee oxidizes incredibly fast within days of grinding. Whole beans stay fresh much longer. A decent burr grinder costs $3,100 and will dramatically improve both the taste and the nutritional quality of your coffee. Grind only what you need for each brew. Seventh, look for shade-grown and bird-friendly certifications. Beyond just health, these certifications indicate more sustainable farming practices that are better for the environment and often correlate with higher quality beans. Shade-grown coffee tends to have more complex flavors and lower contamination rates because the ecosystem is healthier. Some specific brand recommendations. If you want to keep it simple and buy from widely available brands that consistently score well in testing, Cafe Mam Organic, Fair Trade, widely available at health food stores. Equal Exchange Worker owned cooperative, organic, transparent sourcing, Allegro Coffee Whole Foods house brand, organic options, good quality control. Purity Coffee specifically formulated for health, third-party tested, pricey but worth it, Volcanica Coffee specialty roaster with single origin options and good sourcing transparency. For those on a tighter budget, not everyone can afford $18/Elb specialty coffee, and that's okay. If you need to shop at regular grocery stores, here are the better choices. Look for organic options from Newman's Own Organics ***, which are usually mid-priced and avoid the worst contamination issues. Trader Joe's organic coffee is generally a solid budget option. Their organic shade-grown varieties test reasonably well. Costco's Kirkland Organic is better than their conventional. If you're going to buy Kirkland, at least make it organic. One final tip: consider trying coffee alternatives or mixing in mushroom coffee blends if you're concerned about caffeine overconsumption. Brands like Four Sigmatic and Mudwa Tree blend coffee with medicinal mushrooms and adaptogens that provide energy without the jitters and reduce the total caffeine load. They're not for everyone, but worth exploring. Remember, coffee is something you consume every single day, potentially multiple times per day for years or decades. The cumulative exposure to pesticides, mycotoxins, heavy metals, and other contaminants adds up. Spending an extra $5.10 per bag to get clean, high-quality coffee is one of the best health investments you can make. Your body will thank you. The coffee industry is a multi-billion-dollar global operation, and like any massive industry, there are players who prioritize profit over quality and safety. The brands we've exposed tonight aren't necessarily evil, but they are cutting corners, exploiting regulatory loopholes, and counting on consumers not asking questions. They hide behind pretty packaging, nostalgic branding, and low prices, hoping you won't look deeper into what's actually in your cup. Here's the truth: the food industry in general hides a lot behind labels and marketing. Coffee is no exception. From pesticide residues that would be illegal in Europe to mycotoxins with no federal safety limits in the United States. From heavy metals accumulating in your organs to carcinogenic compounds formed during processing. These aren't fringe concerns. These are documented, tested, real issues affecting the coffee you drink every morning. But knowledge is power. Now that you know what to avoid and what to look for, you can make informed choices. You can vote with your wallet and support brands that actually care about quality and transparency. You can demand better from the industry by refusing to buy products that don't meet basic safety standards. Important disclaimer: this video is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All claims are based on publicly available data, independent laboratory testing, consumer reports, and documented research. We encourage you to do your own research and consult with healthcare professionals about your individual dietary choices. The brands mentioned may dispute these findings, and testing results can vary between batches and products. But here's what we know for certain. You deserve to know what you're consuming. You deserve transparency. You deserve coffee that doesn't come with a side of toxins. So here's what I need you to do. If this video opened your eyes, if you learned something that surprised or shocked you, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. We expose hidden menu secrets like this every single week. From the food you eat to the products you use daily. This channel exists to give you the information the industry doesn't want you to have. Drop a comment below and tell us, which of these brands have you been drinking? Will you switch now, or are you sticking with what you know? Are there other coffee brands you think we should investigate? We read every comment, and your input helps us decide what to expose next. And if you found this valuable, share it with your coffee-loving friends and family. They deserve to know this information too. Hit that like button to help this video reach more people. The coffee industry won't change unless we demand better, and demanding better starts with being informed. Knowledge is your best defense. See you in the next one.